Welcome to the Crafts channel. I'm Stuart Hillard. Now in today's video I'm going to be showing you a really cool stitch called Blackberry Stitch, or sometimes it's called Trinity Stitch, and it's called Trinity Stitch because it involves 3 stitches. This is a fabulous texture, I think, and is often seen on sweaters, in particular on Aran sweaters that feature traditional cables. Trinity or Blackberry stitch is often used for the in-between sections, or for under the arms, or maybe even for the back panel on an Aran sweater. It looks very complicated, it looks difficult. Trust me, it's not. It's really simple. It's a 4-row repeat, but 2 of those rows are just purling. So 2 rows to think about, and it's a very regular repeat. So let's dive in. Now I'm using a chunky weight yarn for this, just to show you, but it'll work of course with any weight of yarn. So our first row, easy peasy, haven't really got to think too much about this. We're just going to purl. And actually row 1 and 3 is just a purl. Now we need to cast on a multiple of 4 stitches, plus we want 3 extra. And don't worry about trying to remember this. We'll put a stitch guide in the description below. You can download that and print it off. So row 1, we're just purling across all stitches. And this is our right side. This is where our bobbles are going to appear. Last few stitches. Now row 2 is one of the rows that we need to think about, but it's a nice regular repeat. So we're going to start by purling 3 stitches together. When you're working your purl rows, try to be just a little gentler on your tension, slightly looser on your tension, just to make it easier to purl 3 together when you get to the row 2. But if you need to, you can always slip, just to loosen those stitches, and then pop them back on the left hand needle, and that's enough usually just to get them a little bit looser. So we've got the yarn in front ready to purl, and I'm going to push the needle through the first 3 stitches, so I've got them all on the right hand needle, and then I'm going to purl all 3 stitches together. Okay, that's our first stitch. Now bring your yarn back around, ready to knit. Next we're going to knit, purl, knit into the same stitch, into that second stitch, or that first stitch on the needle. So we're going to knit into the front of it, bring the yarn forward, purl into the front of it, yarn back, and knit into the front of it. So knit, purl, knit, all into that same stitch. Bring the yarn forward, and we're going to repeat. So bring the first 3 stitches all onto the right hand needle, purl them together and take them off. So we've just got rid of 2 stitches, and then yarn back ready to knit, and we're going to knit, purl and knit all into the same stitch before we take it off the needle. So that's our row 2. Purl 3 together, knit, purl, knit. And if you get stitches that feel a little bit too tight, you can always slip them onto the right hand needle first, and then slip them back again, just to make them a little bit looser, and that will make it easier to get your needle, slide your needle in and purl all those stitches together. Effectively, what we're doing is creating that bobble by purling those 3 stitches together. It's creating the bobble. So there's purl 3 together, and then knit, purl, knit. Purl 3 together, knit, purl, knit. Now, of course, once you've done this row, you'll be ready for a little break. Unfortunately, the next row is just purling. Now, one thing I just want to point out, on your second row, and every second row, you will end with purl 3 together, which means that you're 2 stitches down when you come to start row 3. Don't worry about that. We allow for that in row 4. So we're on to row 3 now. So remember, row 3, nice and easy. We haven't got to think about it here. We're just going to purl straight across from one side to the other. This is when my mind can wander. It's not wandering now. I end up having lots of very stilted conversations because I have to concentrate every now and then. So purl straight across all those stitches. And this is row 3 of your Trinity or Blackberry stitch. I mentioned that it was called Trinity stitch because there were 3 stitches involved, and now you've seen them. So once you've worked that purl row, you're on to the 4th and final row of your pattern repeat. Now remember, on row 1, we started with purl 3 together. So on this row, row 4, we're going to start with knit, purl, knit. And that makes up those 2 stitches that we lost at the end of row 2. So we're going to knit into the front, purl and knit all into that first stitch. So now 1 stitch has become 3, and then yarn forward, and we're going to purl 3 stitches together. Wiggle your needle in. It's usually the start of the row which is a little bit harder, and then we're just going to keep repeating that all the way across. Knit, purl, knit, and then purl 3 together. This tends to be in my knitting where my tension gets a little tighter. So then I just remind myself when I'm on the purl row just to relax, loosen up, and get the tension back to where it should be. Knit, purl, knit, and purl 3 together. So same again, knit, purl, knit, and purl 3 together. This would make a gorgeous, gorgeous texture for a throw or a cushion as well. So we've got 4 stitches left on the needle. So we'll purl 3 together, and then the last stitch we knit, purl, knit, and we're back up to the original number of stitches that we started with. We've got another row of bobbles, and these are offset. So each time the pattern will naturally offset the bobbles so they nest in together. It's not something you have to think about or do. Just follow the pattern link in the description box below and you can knit that Blackberry or Trinity stitch. Have fun with it. Try fitting it in with one of your projects. Have a little play. Thanks for joining me on the Crafts channel. Don't forget to subscribe and also to click the notifications bell, and I'll see you next time.